like,
Hello,
oh,
hello.
you did like a whole title page thing. I was like, "Ooh, wow, look at that.
Yeah,
It's
fancy.
cool."
Yeah,
Very fancy.
I'm still fighting with CapCut, but oh, I have to go with it. Hey, everybody, welcome to Misinterpretations. My name
Right.
is Marin, and this is my virtual campfire.
Oh,
Hi,
sorry.
Kip.
It is your virtual
This
campfire.
is my virtual campfire, and today we have. I told you I'm not professional yet. This is Dr.
I've
Kipp
actually done
Davis.
this before too, if you can believe it. So
Okay, wait, let's just start again. No, I'm just kidding.
that's fun. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Dr. Kipp Davis, hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I enjoy coming to your virtual campfire. It's
Well,
fun.
we love well, good. I'm so glad because we always learn so much and we do have fun. So that is the point. And today we are going to talk about
Kipp Davis has written no.
Are we going to talk all about how I've written no books? 'Cause that would be I mean, we could spend a show doing that.
yeah,
Um,
all your
but
no books,
all my no books.
all your no
So,
books. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, my name is on the it's a bit of a misnomer because my name is on the cover of 5 books.
Mm.
So, but I was an editor of 3 of them. I now wrote substantial portions of those 3, but like I've written 2 books with just my name on it. So, yeah.
Well, okay. All
Oh,
right.
but now there's some complications involved in this
What?
because the 2 of the books that I've written have also been retracted. So, is it like how does this work? Is this like 5 minus 2 equals only 3?
No,
Or
I no.
like
Whether or not anybody can get the book doesn't necessarily mean you didn't do something
oh,
good.
oh,
For
you know
example,
what's
I never published my master's thesis at
mm,
Emory, and so it's not in the
y
library. So,
oh, wow, okay, but you
yeah,
still wrote it.
I
You're
did.
fairly sure, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
but you know
yeah.
what the great thing about retraction is that I've discovered
What?
is that my retracted books, you can get from the publishers directly. You
Oh,
don't have to pay for them anymore. So,
oh,
like my retracted book of Dead Sea Scrolls forgeries, that was published by Brill, you can download the free PDF of that
a free
directly from
Brill book, man.
right? Like
Right?
I think it's the only free Braille book. I guess there's some um what do they call those ones? There's some open access stuff that they have.
Oh,
It's but this
yeah.
one isn't that, right? It's not open access. It's
Will you
retracted.
remind us why it's retracted? Why the books are retracted?
The book is retracted because it contains modern forgeries of artifacts and they published it while we were still in my opinion, sorting out this. I had decided that they were forgeries, but, not everybody else had at that
Mm.
point. So they went ahead and published it, and I, continued with my work on those particular fragments and, wrote an article, I collaborated on a scientific article with 7 other people or 8, and then, I was the lead author on that one,
Mhm.
by the way, and then I wrote one of my own, um, that was, that was then published the same year, and from that point on, everybody was like, "Oh, hey, I think these are modern forgeries," so
You were right.
yeah. So
You were
and it's the
right.
same goes for the other book, which also contains modern forgeries of Dead Sea Scrolls, and that's the Gleanings from the Caves, which is the artifacts and manuscripts from the Scoian collection,
Mhm.
and that was published by T&T Clark, and it was just retracted this last year.
So
Yay!
so it's good. So in those two books, there is no
Yeah.
indication that there's no description that they were maybe forgeries. Is that
No, except for in the Museum of the Bible book, which is the one that was published by Brill.
yeah,
In the chapter that I wrote of that one, which is about the paleography and the physical analysis, I spent a page in there talking about, how I think there's a good chance that a bunch of them could be forgeries, and I very briefly just kinda point to a few things, what
and
I
they
call
left that in there.
suspicious. They left that in there. So and I was just, I'm just a dumb postdoc at this point, la 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 la, just doing my thing,
Uh-huh.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I was, they asked me to write this chapter, and I'm like, okay, da 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 da, writing away. They might be forgeries, la 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 la, right? And sent it in. I was one of the editors of the book too, so I was like,
Yeah.
all three of us were reviewing all the proofs and stuff, and then the book went to press, and I went to SBL that year. This was 2017, and there was like a big reception right at the start to celebrate the publication of the book. And I just happened to be talking to like one of the higher ups at the Museum of the Bible, and he said to me, it was at this point that I was told, yeah, I'm really happy with the book, and I'm really happy we ended up including your chapter in there. And I'm like, oh, what? Oh, he's like, yeah, when you wrote it, there was conversations, at the higher levels about what to do with it, and we ultimately agreed that it should stay in there, and that we wouldn't make you um change anything. So yeah, I was like, wow, well, that was good of them. So
Should we construct a Kipp Davis? You have
a
to say that.
Geniza.
Geniza for your retractable.
Yes.
I don't take Hebrew, so what is that?
A Geniza
Yeah.
is a so um it's usually like a box, or it can be like a room in a synagogue for the
Mm.
deposition of old
Old.
or worn out scrolls,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Because
Okay.
you can't destroy a Torah scroll.
Right.
You have to bury it respectfully. So they'll
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
like these ceremonies and deposit them. In fact, so there's I mean, we don't know how old this tradition is, but I will say, like, there's the collection of manuscripts that are part of the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found at Matzah. Matzah is this is um the place. This was Herod's winter palace
Okay.
on the southern shore of the Dead Sea,
Yeah.
where the the zealots during the first Jewish war, according to Josephus, the zealots uh, they ran out of Jerusalem and went all the way down to uh, Matzah, Herod's old winter palace, and they holed up there.
Hmm.
And then the Romans eventually, when they got there, they built like this huge siege ramp, because Matsura is like it's a very impressive place. It's like
Is it the
perched
one that's
on
like up
this.
on a hill? A
Yeah,
hill?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So you can either hike up there, or you can cheat and take the tram, to go up there. Um, but the Romans built like an enormous like siege ramp on
Yeah.
the west side of it, in order to get in. And then the story goes that all the zealots chose to just kill themselves instead of be killed by the Romans. So anyways, uh
Wow.
Masada was excavated in the 1960s, and they found what's probably, it looks like it could be like a synagogue
Mm.
on the site on the top there. Um, and in like an alcove, sealed up alcove of this synagogue, they found a cache of manuscripts. So they, archaeologists came around to calling it a Geniza. Um,
Okay.
it may be, but I don't know. I'm not even sure it's a synagogue. It probably is, but I mean, there's nothing on it that says "Welcome to the Masada Synagogue," right? So,
Right.
um, but yeah, so that dates to the first century. And then there's some thoughts that a couple of the caves at Qumran, where Dead Sea Scrolls were stashed, in
Hmm.
particular, like Cave 1 or Cave 11, might have been something like that too, where scrolls were uh, deposited for, like, basically retired in these
Okay.
caves
Oh,
after they had, um, after they were no longer usable. So I don't know. Um, so that's we've spent all this time talking about Genizont, which is the plural of Geniza,
okay.
um,
Well,
which is
now I
not what
know.
I'm here to talk about.
No, but I got. I do have to bring this up because, like, your other books, without drunken maps, do they even count
We could
as books?
we could draw drunken maps today
You could
too
draw.
if
You
we
could draw
want.
maps. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get ready just in case
Okay.
we
Okay.
need to.
In
So
case we need a map. All right.
um, yeah. So
So yeah, I'm looking
and
at.
I should start drinking faster, I guess, if they're gonna be drunken
Yeah.
maps.
But you didn't eat, so you'll probably be.
That too. I was almost goaded into drawing a map of Europe uh, on Bad Science Sunday when I was on there
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
just to
You
see
you
if
were
you
just
knew
on,
east
which
from
was,
west, right? That.
yeah, and you know what? And I was ready to do it, but then I
Yeah.
I started I started drawing Norway, which is, of course, I mean, that's where everybody starts drawing Europe, isn't it? Pretty sure. And then but it dawned on me in that moment. I'm like, you know, I, I probably don't know the specifics of the geography here as well as I think I do. So
Well,
I
you.
bailed like a coward.
Well, Heng Fashi is saying you're a polymath. I don't have that
No,
sound bite.
I'm not
I
a.
need that.
I'm
I
not.
need that sound bite.
You
Yeah,
do you need that one? I'm
I do. You have to
okay.
send it to me.
Can I get it to you? I wonder
Yeah.
if I can get it to you during the show.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I've got
I'll
it.
pull that.
Let
I'll pull
me
that
let
up
me
again.
check.
Okay.
But I'm not. I'm not a polymath, and I'm embarrassed for anybody who thinks that they are, like, personally themselves a polymath, because, like, for real,
It's a little bit
I
like I'm kind
just,
of a big deal. I mean,
right? Yeah, it's that, right? So, but I think it's even a little more than that.
a
I
little more.
think. I think so, because I mean, I've actually said that. I've said that to, I mean, I'm joking all the time, right? When I say to people I'm kind of a big deal, but
We're always
but
joking.
but I'd never be like, yeah, I'm a
I'm a
polymath. Yeah,
polymath.
yeah, that's
Okay.
all.
Well, let's talk about one of the many different topics that you cover in your book here. And
Sure.
as I was reading, and okay, I know you're laughing at me because I haven't exactly read your book in order
Uh,
because I was
that's
looking through it and
fine.
I'm like, oh, that looks like a good chapter, and I skip over to that. Probably because time has no meaning to my brain. I don't
Uh,
really, and
flat
I
flat
never,
circle.
yeah, with a history, with history and stuff. So I can only read the history stuff so much before, but listening to it actually has helped, right? Just kind of like
'cause you
put it
also
together.
have the audiobook.
I do have the audiobook, as everybody should have the audiobook as well. This is what I'm
Oh,
saying, because like
that's
in the
nice.
I have to have the hard copy because I write all over my books,
Oh,
so it's
yeah,
like,
of
I
course.
have to put, like, notes and stuff
Oh,
all
look, you've
over.
got notes in there and everything.
Yeah,
Wow.
I have to, that's
Scribbling
how I
all over
process it.
scribbling all over the book.
Writing
Wow.
all of, I hope you aren't offended by
Not at
this.
all.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I
I don't have any writing in mine. So,
you,
but
you wrote the whole thing. What are you talking?
I I have coffee stains on the
Okay.
on the pages.
Well,
So,
I got in the habit. I borrowed one of my professor's books one time, and
uh,
Dr.
and you
Hop
wrote in it?
actually. And no, I didn't write in it, but
Okay.
I was reading his book, and he had written at the top of almost every page, like a few words that described what was on the page. And then at the beginning of the chapter, he wrote a sentence
Oh,
about what the whole chapter was about, like to abstract it down into a sentence. And I thought,
yeah, that's a good idea.
what an amazing thing. So then,
Yeah.
for ever since then, that's how I mean, I don't just underline, I actually write notes like that too. And if I'm, like, when I was reading the novels, the Greek novels that I've like
Mhm.
covered, um, whenever a new character would come on the scene, I'd write their name at the top of that page. Then I would know when I went back through it when they were introduced, like when we saw them the first time. So
Like,
yeah.
what's the name of the one that I was just talking
Oh,
about?
Luke
Not
Hippie, Luke
me.
Hippie,
Luke
Luke Hippie.
Hippie.
Yeah, Luke Hippie and Flight of Fawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was that's my favorite story, and that's the least watched on
Really?
my channel. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So, and I have it in two parts, and I'm like, maybe I should have put it in one. I'm thinking every now and then about putting it together and reposting it, but
that was
anyway.
that was one of my favorite parts of that conversation that we had with Dr. Christy Cobb.
Hmm.
Was that little nugget that she revealed
Yeah,
um
yeah.
about
There's a lot of slavery, and in those romances. I mean, and
yeah.
it's happened in
Uh,
Kairos and Clearway, and Habercombe's, and Thea, an Ephesian Tale. I mean, all of them have something where the aristocrat, one of them at least, goes into slavery because they're in a foreign land and they just get, shipwrecked or something, and have to go into slavery. And yeah, but yeah, that even though she was a slave, she
Everybody can
had
tell.
this aura, right?
Yeah.
That, surely she's not a slave. Yeah, yeah,
This very essentialist sort of view
yeah,
of human of uh social standing, I
yeah,
guess, of,
yeah,
it's yeah, it's fascinating, it's really cool. So,
yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
yeah,
So
so,
we are talking about what your ideas are, and I just think it's kind of cool because I see it in the Greco-Roman world kind of as well. But this country folk again versus the city folk, and those in the city looking down on the people in the country, but those in the country, like, how bad the city is, right? So, and the evolution of the state, or the people of Israel, right? And
right.
how they evolve in in the Hebrew Bible, and how they're discussed, um, and where they actually come from. Yeah. So, would you like to
Uh,
start where you would like to start? That's kind of my
yeah,
introduction to.
I wish I had I was just going to say because it's not like, this is not my idea.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is something that was observed, and in particular, I think it's definitely strongest in uh i- what I would say is like the non-P material. So just for um I think most people know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, so when it comes to the source material of the Pentateuch, um lots of scholars will for a long time used to refer to it in terms that developed out of the documentary hypothesis. Um, J material or Yahwist material as that layer that was provided by the Yahwist, and Genesis through, well, at that point Genesis through Numbers, right?
Hmm.
And then like E as that which belongs to the Elohist writer, and P to the priestly writer, and D to the Deuteronomist. Um, so lots of scholars have problems with the way that this has been formulated, but I think we're in a situation now where most scholars recognize that in the Pentateuch, from a source critical perspective, we know that there are multiple sources at work.
Hmm.
We don't know how many, but we know we can isolate and recognize, and everybody is generally agreed on the identification of like two of them. That's the Book of Deuteronomy
Hmm.
as like an individual separate source that is distinct from everything else
Hmm.
in Genesis through Leviticus. But then within the other material, there is P, which was the P in JEDP, the priestly source. Most scholars agree not only in the existence of P, but also in the basic outline of the material for
Hmm.
P, from Genesis through Numbers. And then everything else, instead of isolating it as J or E, um, scholars have just come around to calling it non-P, as
Okay. Yeah.
because that's where most of the disagreement nowadays lies when it comes to the documentary hypothesis. Is like everybody kind of agrees about P, everyone disagrees about everything else. Uh,
Okay.
you know, so
It's just
instead of
other.
going, it's just not P, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Okay.
It's just not P. And there's
And not
probably
D.
other
Well,
sources,
is there
and
is there
not D.
other? Yeah, not D. Or is
No,
Deuteronomy the only D
yeah,
that
pretty
was
much.
identified in the
Yeah.
documentary
There might
hypothesis? Okay.
there's a couple of places here and there in um like Genesis and Exodus in particular,
Hmm.
where it looks like the Deuteronomist has added like added a um a contemporizing point. It usually has something to do with alluding to the exile, right? So we usually recognize those as D insertions, but
Mm.
there's a handful of those, but for the most part, it's just D is just Deuteronomy in
So
in simplest terms.
so
So
multiple
um,
authors, and
mhm.
the J and the E might be more than just two sources, basically, as
Yeah,
part of
and
the.
there's some of the more sophisticated breakdowns of this too, right? Like in David Carr's fantastic book. I don't know if you saw it, but I had the chance. And David Carr's been on my channel. I interviewed him last year. And I'm hoping to get him back here in the near future, but he wrote a fabulous book called The Formation of Genesis 1 to 11,
Mm.
where he talks about talks about P, and then talks about other sources, right? He'll talk about J uh, pretty frequently, and scholars will do this quite often as shorthand. Um, but then he will talk about like the Kenite geology, which is something else that I've talked about on my channel before too, which is in Genesis 4, or like the uh what's another what's oh like the Joseph novella is
Mm.
considered basically a different source. It's like an independent story that then was massaged
Yeah.
into you know into the book of Genesis. So these
Yeah.
sorts of things. So yeah, there's a recognition of multiple sources. We don't really know how many. We can't always identify them, but scholars are
Yeah.
pretty good at identifying or isolating P from all the other stuff. So I
Okay.
started that way as to say that um, within the non-P material, in particular in the so-called primeval history of Genesis 1 to 11. But I think that I think the ethos extends beyond that. Scholars like Ronald Hendel and David Carr have recognized that there seems to be a polemic within the text against the idea of urbanization. They have framed it, and I quite like this. And this is basically how I begin chapter 2, right? By introducing the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was probably the most famous, the most widely circulated piece of literature in the ancient Near East
Yeah.
for, I don't know, like 1,000 years or more. It's pretty crazy how
Yeah.
old this story is and how long people were and all over the place, right?
Yeah.
It got around. So um and we are pretty sure that the author of Genesis was keenly aware of the Epic of Gilgamesh,
Yeah.
uh, provided echoes of the Epic of Gilgamesh in the in and this is the non I'll say the non-P author
Okay.
within Genesis in the non-P layers, right? Like in the non-P creation story, which we used to call the Yahweh's creation story in Genesis 2 and 3, very clearly is riffing on things that appear in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
So the Epic of Gilgamesh is a really neat text in that, and I'll just read this part because this is how I begin the chapter. Right, this is chapter 2
Hmm.
in the book from Uruk to Canaan, um, and uh, I just read like the beginning of the story of the the Epic of Gilgamesh, which goes like this. And this is, I believe, um, just checking the translation for this. Yeah, this is Stephanie Dalley's translation. Approach Aeona, the home of Ishtar, which no future king nor any man will ever match. Go up on the wall of Uruk and walk around. Inspect the foundation platform and scrutinize the brickwork. Testify that the bricks are baked bricks, and that the 7 counselors must have laid its foundations. 1 square mile is city, 1 square mile is orchards, 1 square mile is clay pits, as well as the open ground of Ishtar's temple. 3 square miles in open ground comprise Uruk. So, like, that's how the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh begins. And the really interesting thing about the Epic of Gilgamesh, and this is something that was observed by Benjamin Foster and picked up by Carr and by Handel, is that um, the Epic of Gilgamesh then ends in exactly the same way. uh, um, Gilgamesh goes back up and looks at the huge walls of the city of Uruk, and then the same lines are repeated verbatim as how the story was begun.
Hmm.
And a way to think about, like, we think about the Epic of Gilgamesh as this epic, elaborate tale of Gilgamesh and his friend, the half man Enki, this mysterious creature who becomes a civilized human. They have all these adventures, and then Enkidu dies, and Gilgamesh is distraught because they're best friends, and then this prompts him to begin a pursuit of eternal life because he's so distraught at the fact that his friend is dead. And this leads him then to go meet Utnapishtim, who was the survivor of the Great Flood. Utnapishtim then tells him the story of surviving the Great Flood, but then gives him the secret of eternal life, which is this plant that's at the bottom of the sea that no one has the physical strength and the stamina to be able to go down and actually retrieve, but Gilgamesh does it. He goes and he gets the plant and he brings it back up, and he's going to take it home with him. He's on his way back to Uruk, and he stops and sleeps, and then the snake comes, the serpent comes and steals the plant. So he's robbed of the chance for eternal life, returns to Uruk, and then kind of has this epiphany, this realization, right, that his legacy, his eternality is guaranteed by the city, by Uruk. The Uruk is eternal. Uruk is this place. It's in many ways, while it's not featured through most of the story, Uruk is kind of the starring character in the Epic of Gilgamesh, as the story is a celebration of civilization, of the city. All these things happen because of Uruk. We are able to, we are distinguished as men from animals because of civilization, because of the great things that happen in Uruk. And this is Gilgamesh's great realization at the end of the story that, I can live forever through this monumental achievement of mine. So both Carr and Handel have seen this as integral to the writer of the primeval history, which is mostly the non-P writer. And this is kind of there's this very subtle critique of the city that's woven into some of these stories that we see in the book of Genesis. And we can talk through a couple of these. Like,
well,
first,
you can talk about what the first one you wanted to. I was just going to say, but is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah subtle?
No, right? Like I'm glad that you picked up on that one too. But this is earlier on. I think it is a little more so.
More subtle.
Right, where you've got, like, we think of the story of the Garden of Eden as, like, the way I describe it in the book, as imagining like a pristine wilderness vista, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, of getting back to nature. This is certainly the way someone like Paradise Lost. Who was that? Was that William Blake? I think. I can't remember.
No.
Somebody in the chat remembers.
It's a College Bowl question. Oh man, I can't remember. But we did it in high school.
Oh, Milton. Sorry,
Milton.
Milton.
That's it.
John
Thank
Milton.
you.
Yeah. So I was thinking of the paintings, and then I think I even got that wrong. But but this is like sort of very much a 19th century kind of romantic. We're all nerds. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
This is where you come to show off your feathers. But your plumage, right? I think that's what it's called. But this is very, very much a romantic notion of like an untampered with natural landscape.
Right.
And we transplant that back onto the Garden of Eden. That's kind of how we still do it, right? But that's not what it is. Like, the Garden of Eden is like it's like a manufactured landscape garden, like an urban garden, right? And
Yep.
these were a big deal. In the ancient world, when you built a city, you built gardens, elaborate gardens, as and these were
Cultured.
seen as,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. These were seen as like great achievements
Mm-hmm.
of technology and
Yeah.
yeah, and civilization.
Yeah.
I introduce the possibility that um this is problematic because we really don't know much of anything about the fabled hanging gardens of Babylon that
Right.
Nebuchadnezzar built. We have there's a lot of controversy with regards to that, but as the story goes, Nebuchadnezzar built a garden, a spectacular garden in the city of Babylon, for his for his queen, Amatus, who was from Iran, and missed the mountains and the forests. When you live in the mountains and the forests, and you go away, you miss them. That's just that's
Yeah.
that's what happens to me all the goddamn time. So, this is
I
she
couldn't.
missed them. So
I
he
didn't like Arizona. Like,
no,
right. I mean,
no,
it's kind of cool. It's amazing, but it felt like I was living in a negative, right? Because everything was red, and I'm used to green. So it was
only
like
dinosaurs.
looking at a film negative
Yeah,
of my life. Yeah. Anyway, so I
yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Only dinosaurs can live in Arizona. That's where Dapper, um,
Oh,
that's where
oh,
Dapper is, right? So, but yeah,
selfish
the
dinosaurs.
the fucking selfish dinosaur in Arizona, that guy. So, it's, but I've never been actually. So, but I agree. It sounds miserable.
You might not
Um,
like it. Yeah, I mean,
no,
it's
I
kind of
feel like I
cool to
would
see
not.
the cacti and all
Yeah,
that stuff, but
yeah,
for
that's
being there
cool.
for very long was like depressing to me. And it's so hot. It's so
Right,
hot. Yeah, not
right.
fun.
Yeah, I don't
Anyway,
like that
so
either.
so
So
the Babylonian gardens is it like an example of what you think that Eden might have
the
been like? But
Garden of Eden. Yeah.
what is your why do you think that the Garden of Eden was a cultured garden rather than the Paradise Lost version?
Well, because Yahweh planted it in the first place,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
He planted it, and then the way that it's described, the man was put into the garden to um to till and to tend, which
Hmm.
is something that you don't have to do with a
Yeah.
natural with a natural landscape, right?
Oh, true.
Like and then like there's been a lot of scholarship on the parallels within the story and the echoes within the story of like temple imagery and language, um and
Because this is where
Bruce.
God lived, right? So the
Sure,
temple is where
yeah,
God lives,
exactly.
and okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, Bruce Wells, who teaches at UT Austin, it has been working on a book for a while now, where he makes this argument, and I think he's probably right too, that Adam and Eve are like temple oblates, like
Mm.
they're temple slaves, basically. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Guessed.
Look at
That's
that.
good.
Good job, Hank Fishy. Someone's paying attention in class. So, so that's the kind of the first. It's not called a city, but that's the imagery there.
Hmm.
The first couple comes out of this this urban this urban landscaped masterpiece. And I've talked a little on your show before about some of my thoughts on uh what I think is kind of going on there with
Yeah.
respect to, the fact that they can't stay in this, or they have to go out into the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
And while this looks tragic and this looks like a punishment, I think this is also a way for the story to sort of set the stage and go, okay, like this is your place, this is where you live, this is
Yeah.
your life, right? For
Right.
better or worse, this is where you are.
Right. We had a question here. Was there any suggestions of maintain gardens being an extension of a king's godly power?
Oh, like the fact that they're able to, um I think very much uh that these were demonstrations of like harnessing natural forces, manipulating nature. If that's what you're getting at, I think,
Yeah. Well, I
I
think
mean,
I
I
mean,
think
but
that's
that the
definitely
king
in there.
is an extent, God's anointed, basically, right? So
Yeah.
there's that, and not just Israelite religion, right? But also in other rel religious ideas of the same area. But but the cultivation part, like the civil, like the taming, right? The
Mm,
taming of the wild.
that's it.
That's the part I was
Yes.
thinking of. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I see
So,
why.
all right. So that's kind of the first one, but then I'll just I have just a very brief list here, and I'll just read this. This is on page 50. If you've got your textbooks handy, class. Um, this movement finds an interesting reflection in the biblical text, but perhaps most artfully encapsulated in the so-called primeval history in Genesis 1 to 11. The first man and the woman are banished from the urban masterpiece of God's landscape garden. That's in Genesis 3 to 4. The first murderer is Cain. And the very first thing that Cain does after he kills Abel, and then he's marked by Yahweh so that he is protected. The very next thing that he does is he goes and he builds the first city, uh, and names it and Enoch after his son, which is kind of interesting. Um,
But
and then
what does that mean? Like well, first of all, I heard a comedian a couple weeks ago talking about this. It's like we can't even get to the it's like the third person on earth before there's murder. Like it's like what's
uh,
going on? What's going
yeah,
on with
yeah.
humans there? Is the sound
So,
better, guys? Let me know. Um, I was quiet before,
or
which I've
it
never been
could be
accused
I'm
of.
just really
No, no, no.
loud.
I
Tommy's
changed
saying
something, so we'll try that.
no.
I'll try that.
I am
But
very loud.
but but Cain went and made a city, but he's the one who was the murderer. So
Yeah,
what does that? Oh, that is one of those subtle things. The
yeah,
evil guy,
I think so.
aha, goes to the
Bad
city.
guy
Got
builds a
it.
city, right?
Aha.
And then
Mm-hmm.
after Genesis 4
But
is
but
is a genealogy. Go ahead.
right. Well, I had one other question about the Garden of Eden and but
Oh,
like
sure. Yeah.
being expelled from the Garden of Eden into the wilderness is 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 a punishment. But but right. So
Uh, yeah and no. Like and I think I talked about this the last time I was on your show, where like it's because I prefer to think about it as, um the couple uh is is sent away from the garden because they can't stay in the garden. And they can't stay in the garden because they're no longer just temple oblates anymore,
they're
because
smarty pants. They
they're
know good and
smart. Yes,
evil.
they
Yeah.
know things. So the
And they can't live
fear,
forever. Right. They
the
can't.
well, that's the fear, right? Like if they're gonna let them stay, then they're going to eat from the tree of life and become gods. So they're like, we can't let that happen for whatever reason. Whether you see that as as depriving humankind of something, or as, you know, an explanation for why humans are godlike, I guess,
Yeah.
in the perspective of these writers, right?
Okay.
So it's, I don't know. I think the punishment is overstated. I think
Oh,
it's
okay.
I mean, I think it's not like it's there is an element of something lost
Yeah.
in what happens. But I also think that there is, as the story is also introducing, I mean, literally just what it is to be human. So, like what it is to be human is having to provide for yourselves, having to,
Yeah.
you know, cultivate
S-
the
And all
earth
the suffering that
in
goes with that.
harsh
Yeah.
conditions, and all the and how that's hard. I think like
S-
the way I
Go
put it in
ahead.
my book, right? I said that, um, like, uh, providing for yourself is difficult. It's
Yeah.
work, right? It's
Yeah.
toil, but there's reward in that. You know, there's achievement in that as well. Because that's the other side of this coin. When the man and the woman are enslaved to the garden.
Right.
Um, this is an emancipation as much as it's a punishment, because now they're free to go out and, you know, pursue their own self-determination,
Yeah.
as difficult as that is.
Yeah.
They're doing it on their own.
Okay.
They're so that's, I mean, that's where I see kind of a redemptive arc
Yeah.
in that part of the story.
But they didn't
So
go immediately and make a city. So there's that.
exactly, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The point is they're coming out of the city. They're walking
Yeah.
away from it into, like the Judean highlands, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about that.
And they're like, so
So
what are the other subtle
okay. So
stories that would
then we
reflect
have
this?
Cain, and
Hmm.
then after that we have this genealogy in Genesis chapter 5, and then after that, you have, Genesis chapter 6, which is, the destruction of all of humankind for just being, irredeemably corrupt, which looks like it's sort of the culmination of, Cain builds a city. That genealogy in Genesis 5 is pasted in there. So if you pull that out, the narrative arc goes from Cain killing his brother to Cain building a city, uh, to Lamech then killing two men, to then the entire world, becoming, so violent and so corrupted that
Yeah.
God is going to destroy it all. Um,
Yeah.
so it's the only there is only one there is only one city in the, um in the proper primeval history, in the antediluvian part of the text. It's that the one city, the city of Enoch, that Cain built. Um, you don't get cities again until after the flood. So, the entire earth is flooded, and everybody's wiped out, and then God starts over. Clearly not omniscient there. Nope. Uh,
Doesn't see how bad
so
everything is going to get. Yeah. Um,
exactly. So
at the risk of derailing, I do want to
yeah.
answer Tommy's question here. Any connection between this and when the Israelites longed to go back to slavery shortly after being freed from Egypt, as a reflection of having to leave Eden and would rather
Mm,
be back in Eden, even as
interesting.
slaves,
Yeah,
because the life was better.
that's an interesting idea that I have not thought of.
It is
Tommy.
actually.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I have to think some more of that. My first instinct is to go, well, like, no, because nobody wants. But I think that's, but that's the absurdity of that story, is that anybody would want to go back and be slaves again in Egypt. But it's it's in yeah no
But they
that's
were but they were more comfortable, and they were, taken
ah
care of, and I
yeah
mean, yeah,
yeah I
anyway.
don't know.
It's an interesting question. So, all
It's a
right.
very good question. I love that question.
So there were no more cities until when?
So then, and I'll just read here. So the first murderer is also the first to build a city in Genesis 4, and chaos ensues in Genesis 6. Following the flood, there's this mysterious villain figure, Nimrod, who builds the great Mesopotamian cities, and he builds 4 of them. So he builds Uruk, Akkad, and Babylon. He also builds this place. He also builds um, Kalna and what's it called? Um, I can't think of the other one, but these are known places. Uruk, we know from the Epic of Gilgamesh directly. Akkad is like the famous place of the emergence of like the great, very very ancient Sumerian king Sargon of Akkad. Babylon is the Mesopotamian city.
Are
That
all of these cities around uh Babylon, in that area around the
Yeah,
river, the Euphrates,
yeah,
and okay.
exactly. They're all sort of part of that whole area in the
Hmm.
so-called Fertile Crescent there.
Yeah.
So and then the other two, Kelna and the other one that I can't think of right now, we know are associated with Nineveh. Nineveh was the seat of the Assyrian Empire in the um 8th 7th centuries BCE. um so this is they're all credited in Genesis 5 as having been built by this one guy, Nimrod.
Okay, I'm sorry to derail again, but where did this go? Oh yeah, I gotta know the answer to this. Do you know the answer to this? How did Nimrod become a pejorative?
Yeah, so it's, I mean, he also built a Burger King, a Best
No.
Buy. Um, so uh this is probably like a conflation of the names of 2 prominent Babylonian deities, and that is Marduk. You can kind of hear it in there, Marad, and Ninmah was a goddess. So and like it's innocuous as it's presented within the text. Um and I don't know, like we don't have any information on how he became a baddie, like in the minds of later readers and writers,
Yeah.
because that's not presented in the text. There, like Nimrod is not he's a fictional character. I don't think he's based on anyone.
Hmm.
He's like a
He's not
representation
one
of
person built all those cities.
exactly.
He's like a representation
And
of a baddie because he built
all the
cities.
all he's like a represent yeah, he's like a representation of the great Mesopotamian city builders, the great
Okay.
kings of Mesopotamia.
I think the
And like he's
question that
called this,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say this too. Like Nimrod is called a mighty hunter before the Lord.
A what? A what?
A mighty hunter
Mighty. I didn't
before
hear
the
mighty.
Lord.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a number of Assyrian reliefs where royal figures are, and Gilgamesh for that matter, are like represented as um killing lions. And I think that that's part of there is this association of this imagery. The great hunter is like the the king of the city. I think that's part of um
It's kind of a big
the
deal.
yeah, this is a way of sort of distinguishing him as representative of these great Mesopotamian
But is he
kings.
a polymath?
What would you say your biggest accomplishment is? What field? I'm one of those rare sorts of people that has say multi. I'm a polymath. I'm a polymath.
Sorry.
It only took him 6 tries to find the right word there. But
Okay, so Nimrod built all these cities. That was the first time
Nimrod
it
was a
came back.
polymath. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes back. And then and that's Genesis 10, right? The flood story is quite long. It goes from Genesis 6 to Genesis 9. Genesis 10, we're told about Nimrod. And the very next thing that happens in Genesis 11 is that all the people who have been, because that's Genesis 10 sort of maps out all the individual nations of the world, right? All the 70 nations of Earth, which is a common trope in ancient Near Eastern literature. There was this common belief that there were 70 individual people groups, like nations.
Because of the 70 gods, the 70 sons of
Yeah,
the
it
gods
corresponds to
of
that.
El,
And I don't know which came
maybe.
first, whether the idea that the gods had 70 sons, or that there are 70 nations because of this. I don't know which is first, but there's a correlation there, right? So so that happens. And then in Genesis 11, we read just this really amazing, neat little short story about all the people then coming together and building a city in the plains of Shinar. And their plan is to build a city and a tower up to the sky. And Yahweh comes down and sees what they're doing and is threatened by this, and confuses their language so that they have to disperse. But the message in the story of Genesis 11, and honestly, like, it's short, right? So why not just read it? Because it's short. If I can find my translation of it here, that would be great. But
You have a
just give me a second here.
an
Oh,
internet.
here. I think, yeah, here it is. Or at least the first part of it. This is page 86, by the way. All the earth was one tongue and the same words. And it so happened when they set out from the east, they found a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. Then the men said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and fire them thoroughly." So they had brick for stone and pitch for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build." for ourselves a city and a tower, the top of which will reach to the sky. And we will make a name for ourselves so that we will not be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. Like the rationale is to stay together, to urbanize, as opposed to spreading
I
out,
gotcha.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's very much, and then Yahweh has to come down, right? And is threatened by this, and confuses the languages and sends everybody away so that they can't finish the city and the tower. So this is kind of this is sort of the tipping point in this polemic, right? It's been subtly kind of building to this, where they are now getting together. That's the other important thing here too. They're innovating, right? They're developing new technologies. This is all seen as a threat.
Yeah. Well, it's a threat to
To
God, which is, kind of wild as well.
Exactly.
Okay, I have another little detour I want to tell you because you
Yeah.
brought up the story of Babel, and that there's an interesting short story about a worker who was helping to build the tower, and like how many days it took to get to the top of the tower to take more stones up to the top and stuff, and it's kind of wild. I don't actually remember what the
Is it like a
point of this.
long time? Is it like a gigantic
Yeah, it
tower?
takes, yeah, yeah. So, but I can't remember the point of the story, but it's the same author who wrote a short story that movie The Arrival is uh is based on, that Amy
Oh, the one
Adams
about
was.
oh yeah.
Yeah, where the
Really?
spaceships come
Okay.
down, 12 of them come
Yeah.
down, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's when I saw that it was based on a book, I was like, I got to read the book and see. And the movie is so much more than it's a little short story. It's nowhere close to what the movie is. So I'm very impressed. That's
Arrival.
it. Yeah, Ted Chiang. Yeah, that was the author. See, we are nerds. Look, two of us,
Oh yeah.
three of us know.
Totally. Look at that.
Yeah.
I
Anyway, so
I have come to, I mean, I've been doing this full time for like almost 2 years now, and I've come to just expect it, that if I
yes.
don't know something,
Yep.
someone in the chat is
Gonna know it.
going to
Yeah.
know it and tell
It's a
me.
bunch of
So
smarties. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
But I don't. I suspect that's not the same for I think on an inspiring philosophy stream, if he ever admitted to not knowing anything and consulted the chat, they'd probably just bang rocks together and grunt into their keyboards or smash their
This
heads
is
into them, and
this is
because like
this is when I wish I had the "Are there female rabbis?"
oh, you think that
I'm
one
like,
too?
oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Do I just need to give you my entire
I
catalog
know,
of
right?
so yeah, no, it's true. You guys are awesome though, you in the chat.
Yep.
So
Yep.
but yeah, so there's like a culmination here. This is sort of like the climax of this part of the narrative, where the it's quite explicit at this point,
Mm-hmm.
where city bad, urbanization bad. No,
Yeah.
don't collectivize. Don't put your heads together.
Yeah.
Spread out. Get away from each other. Go back into the hills and stay there.
Yeah.
That's the message, right? And
Yeah.
then right after Genesis chapter 11, we get another genealogy, which is the genealogy of Terah and Abram. And the very first thing that happens to Abram is that Yahweh appears to him and tells him to leave Ur
Mm.
and to go and wander for the rest of his life in the land of Canaan.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of, that kind of sets up the entire rest
Yeah, his
of the book
father
of
Abraham,
Genesis.
right? The beginning
Yeah.
of Israel. Yeah.
And there are the patriarchs have they have encounters with the almost just entirely the rulers, the kings of
Mm-hmm.
various of the
Mm-hmm.
Canaanite cities. Um,
Yeah.
there's I think it's Genesis chapter 14. Abraham has to go and help this coalition of city rulers. There's five of them defeat Chedorlaomer, who is attempting to basically build kind of like an empire of these Canaanite cities. And that's also the place where um Abram meets the king of Salem. Otherwise Melchizedek is his name. Um and he becomes kind of famous later on. But
Okay.
that's and then of course you
Is
you
that
brought up the
Melchizedek in
yeah,
southern? Okay.
yeah, in
In
normal
Mormon and
visually,
in
like it's
southern.
and that
Yeah.
because I say it that way because he's like it just means um king of righteousness,
Oh.
or it could mean my king is righteous. Um, so it's not it's I think in
Mm-hmm.
Genesis it's a name,
Yeah.
but it's probably drawn from Psalm 110, where it's not a name. I think
Mm.
it's I think it's an adjectival description there. But
Yeah.
and then of course, Jesus becomes a priest in the order of Melchizedek. And in the Dead Sea Scrolls too, Melchizedek is an important cosmic figure who um comes and helps to usher in the last days, the eschaton.
So
So
how about the hills then of
all right.
Canaan, right?
So,
Like where do we see that that's better? Well, we've got a
you
whole
know,
lot of dissing the
yeah,
cities, but
yeah. So uh this is where this is where my idea I think I try to connect what I think Hendel and Carr are right about in seeing this pattern throughout these stories. And then I'm trying to connect that to, life.
mhm,
Where can we situate these texts or these ideas in a social situation, historical social situation that makes
and
sense?
why? Right. Why is this
And why?
an issue?
So
Mhm.
there's a few. I think one of the problems is isolating just one instance where this works.
Mhm.
Because I think and because well, I think there's a few ways that you can go with this. In the first place, I'll talk about, and that's what I do in the book too, is I align what's being presented in these stories with what's happening at the end of the Bronze Age,
Mhm.
in the Bronze Age collapse. This is way too early for any of these stories to be written, by the way. But I think there's a reflection of an ethos that was probably there. One of the things that we see taking place at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age is a a retreat and a a disappearance of these great empires in and around the Mediterranean, like Mitanni and the Hittites and the Mycenaeans. Egypt is the period where Egypt becomes restricted now to its own borders. Its influence outside is dramatically reduced. This is where Egyptian controlled Canaan up to
Mm,
the 12th century, and then after the 12th century, like they lost control in
yeah.
Canaan in the 12th century. Um,
Partly because of the sea peoples
yes,
that
that's
it
part
came
of it,
in
but
and
there's
started.
like it's a variety of factors, right? Like it's
Yeah.
a whole there's a whole demographic shift that that's part of it. But there's it has to do with um like the climate. There's climate change taking place at the
Okay.
same time.
So some
There's
famines and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and there's this results in some economic crises and crises of supply. Through this, these empires to the north in particular crumble. Egypt is dramatically weakened. Um, so the imperial age ends, uh, and in place of that, you're left with a bunch of these independent Canaanite cities,
Hmm.
um, and in fairly short order, what we see in the archaeological record is a dramatic increase of highland settlements. You know what? Maybe now's the time to draw a map, Marin.
Oh,
Shall I?
yeah. Draw draw us a
And
map.
everyone can laugh at me and my fabulous map drawing skills. Let me get this set up here.
Okay.
Uh, but I think yeah, the best way to do this is to try and illustrate it. So
So there's a move away from the cities
well,
in this.
not quite yet.
Okay.
I think I'll start with what we see in the archaeological evidence. I
We'll see. We'll see, right?
I mean I've had a little bit. So if you can put my my
Yeah.
screen on the stage.
Yeah, I do that. Oh wait, I totally lost everything now.
Oh, you
What am
did.
I
How did you
doing?
do
I just
that? Where did everybody go? Uh-oh, Marin's gone. It's just me. Hi everyone. Just me. I'm sure she'll be back shortly. But
I'm here.
oh, there.
You were
You're
gonna
back.
draw us a map. I wanted
Yeah,
everybody to
but you
see.
have to put it on the stage. So, because I'm
Oh,
sharing my
that.
screen and then yeah, there you go. That's it. Ta-da. So,
Yeah,
so,
perfect. I'm not a
you
professional
know,
yet.
this is so and I'll just this part's easy, right? So this is like the Mediterranean coast. Um and this is like the Nile Delta down here, right? Are you laughing at?
No,
Come
no,
on.
no. Drunk Map should be a series on your channel.
That's good. So here
Yes.
we have the Great Sea, right?
It's such a cool
And
handwriting. Yeah.
oh, thank you. Uh, so and this is Egypt
Yeah.
right there. So this is Canaan, and you have in the book I talk about there being like 6 climatic zones. The first of these is like this area here, which is
Oh
like
wait. No, this is what I meant. Masterful cartography. Yep. Okay, sorry. Sorry. Go
I've worked
ahead.
very hard on that, by the way. So
All right. So
this is the coastal plain, right?
yes.
Um, and there's a number of very important cities that were established in this area, belonging predominantly to the Philistines. We identify them as the Philistine Pentapolis, Ascalon, Gath, Ashdod, and I'm gonna forget the others, but there's 5 of them. See, the wine is kicking in.
Okay,
So
so are they where are they close to? Are they as far north as Tyre or no?
no, these are
Okay.
like in Gaza, basically.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is like
Okay.
there. And then of course up north you've got like Tyre and Byblos even farther north,
Okay.
which are these long-standing coastal cities.
Mm-hmm.
And then in I'm trying to think. It's I start with the coastal plain, and then regions 2 and 3 is this band of, let's do this. There's like a little notch here. This is like Mount Carmel here. There's Mount Carmel.
Is that close to the shore?
Yeah, it's right on the
Oh,
it's like right on the coast.
cool.
From
Okay.
Mount Carmel, stretching south is like a band of mountains or
Yeah.
hills that go all the way down this way, and it's in this area here where you start to see an increase of settlements, small villages, hundreds and hundreds of them pop up rather suddenly in the 12th to the 11th centuries BCE. So this is where Jerusalem is located, in this area here,
And then
right? So, but the the way that archaeologists and historians tend to interpret this information, apologists like to say, well, this is just evidence of the Israelites moving in to the area, right? This massive increase, this explosion of all these little villages dotting the highlands, like the
mm-hmm.
mountainous region,
Yeah.
where most of the cities are here on the coastal plain, and then there's a bunch
Ah,
that are here too in this area, in the Jordan River Valley,
I was gonna say like
along
close to the Jordan. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
along the river, and that's where Sodom and Gomorrah are traditionally thought to be, down here, right? Where
Okay.
where the Dead Sea is. So there's at the time, and if you've ever been to Israel, you've seen this too. Even though it's extremely arid in this area, where the Dead Sea is,
Mm-hmm.
the Jordan River Valley is quite lush.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of the vegetation there, um, it basically runs between like the Sea of which is way up here, the Sea of Galilee, or the Kinnereth, and the Dead Sea, and in this area were more more cities. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
the settlements, this massive increase of settlements is up here in the highlands, in the mountains,
Yep.
where things are more difficult. In particular, down in the southern highlands. The northern highlands are better agriculturally, but and this is also reflected in like the history of the region too. The northern kingdom of Israel was always much more dominant, much wealthier, much more established than Judah and Jerusalem. And part of the reason for that is because it had access to much better arable land
Mm-hmm.
and resources that come with it. But in
Yeah.
any event, there's this huge increase of people settling outside of the cities in these villages.
As
There's this
why?
strong, because why? That's the question. I mean, we don't know. That, and that's
But you
where
answered that in your book, did you not?
I've suggested an answer, right?
Hmm.
I think so. Like, we don't know, right? And this is where it gets fun. Is you can play around with this, and you can think about why this might be. So what I think is happening at this time period is that there is this is part of a general cultural shift where people are rejecting kind of like the decadence of the city, but also the controls of the Canaanite city rulers, and they're going off on their own. They are pursuing their own independence and their own self-determination in the highlands, right?
So
Like
they're kind of
we're
pioneering out there.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
exactly.
Don't tread
So
on me kind of thing.
and then yeah, totally that, right? Like
Okay.
that's really good. I like that. So I think that's not all of it, but I think that's part of what's happening. I think that's part of what explains
Hmm.
this emergence of Highland culture. Um I've suggested too that this might be, excuse me, I got a cough. I'm getting a little scratchy here. Uh
It's okay.
I I think this might explain um part of the behavior, like, so no, I'll put it this way. Let's back up a little bit. Two of the two of the primary features that we see that distinguish these highland settlements from an archaeological perspective, there I'll say there's three. Let's go three. Okay. Always pottery's really important. Archaeologists have suggested that there is a simplification in terms of the pottery, the types of vessels that are characteristically quote, and these become quote unquote Israelite pottery types. Uh, they're not decorated; they are simple to produce and extremely utilitarian. um Reflects this idea. No, and I mean, this is also reflective of just the fact that they don't have the same sort of access to resources and wealth that
Hmm.
that the city rulers do.
Right.
So there's that. The other thing that we see is the so-called four-room house,
Oh yeah.
which is also been identified as characteristically Israelite. These are the four-room houses tend to be large. They accommodated a lot of people living in them, usually quite large family dwellings.
Well, the whole
And
household, right?
yeah, yeah, and I think sometimes it could be, it could,
Extended.
a whole household could extend to a couple of houses too. But you could put like a whole household inside of one of these large houses. They're characterized. They're called a four-room house because of the layout. On the base floor is like an open courtyard that's surrounded by rooms, which are mostly for like food storage and for animals and for feed, and like for work. It's like living on top of your garage, really, if you think about it. Because on the second floor then of these houses, the roof was probably open, and it was an open air living space that looked down on the courtyard below. But then there was there were instances, we think too, where there were enclosed domiciles where people would sleep up on the second floor. So they're characteristically quite large.
Oh, hold on a second.
And one of the things that I draw
What?
attention to
Hold
in
on a
the
second.
book
I
is
was just
how
gonna
much.
show this real quick.
Oh, a picture of it. Yeah, there we go. Thanks.
Yeah. So
Yeah, this one on the there's a good the Jews to Israel in 1200 BCE is a good example of what one the remains of these four-room houses looks like, and then there's a couple of reconstructions there that you see on the top right. And I think that's okay. That one
Hold
says
on.
it's a four-room house, something like that.
I'm trying to, like, that's like the floor plan,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So you see,
then
it's
outside could be really big.
exactly
That, yeah.
something like that.
This
So
is
one
oh,
of the things
the ladders going up.
that I talk about in the book is how much these four-room houses promote this idea. And I think I think we've talked about this here before, but how much these four-room houses promote this idea of the importance of hospitality, this strong ethical drive towards hospitality, which is, and the way this is presented in the Bible is that, like, it's the contrast is extreme. I'll just say that, right? Like, within the book of Genesis, and there's a few places in the Bible, but one of the things that we see in some of these stories is that cities are dangerous places.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking right away, the most famous example of these is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Right.
Lot is in the city square and meets the angels, the divine beings who've come down to conduct their assessment of the city and potentially destroy it. He meets them in the city square and immediately invites them to come back with him to stay in his house, because the
You can't stay here.
city's
You
name,
can't stay here.
you can't
Yeah.
stay here. You
Yeah.
can't stay in the city just out on your own, because you're liable to get killed, or, as we discover, like,
Assaulted.
sexually assaulted. Yes, it's
Mhm.
you're going to be assaulted. So there's a great urgency on the part of Lot. There's a very obvious relationship between this story and another one that appears at the end of the book of Judges. There's this terrible story of a Levite who visits a town in Benjamin,
Mm.
and is beset upon by the men who live there, and he ends up giving them his concubine, and it's a terrible story.
It's a terrible
Um
story. Yep.
but
I'm going to cover it
especially,
one day.
yeah, we
Because
should talk
it's
about
in
that.
Texts of Terror with Phyllis Tribble's book, Texts of
Oh,
Terror.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that'd
So,
be awesome.
yeah, we can
So
talk about it.
I
Okay.
I focus on the way this story is set up, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a man who lives in this town or village in Benjamin, who's from Ephraim, which is
Mm-hmm.
further in the north, right?
Yeah.
And the story tells us that he makes it a point to go into the square every day to look for people who are passing through, to invite them into his home, to look after them, right?
Yeah.
And he tells them like, he encounters a man who also happens to be from Ephraim, who has been traveling. We're told in the story he's coming from Jerusalem or Shiloh. I think no, he's coming from Shiloh, I think, because this is in the book of Judges. He's coming from the house of Yahweh, is what it says. It doesn't identify the location, but he's coming from the house of Yahweh, and returning back home, taking the long trip back to Ephraim, and has to stop for the night.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the development within the story, he's coming away from this place of safety, the house of Yahweh.
Mm.
He ends up, and here's kind of the twist of this story is that, uh, cities are dangerous. Cities are terrible places where you can't be safe.
Hmm.
You should be safe in the villages. You
Yeah.
should be safe in, when you encounter one of these highland settlements, because the people are going to look after you.
Well,
It's
isn't it
part.
also like, well, okay, so the just traveling is dangerous. I
Traveling
mean,
is dangerous.
just
It's terribly
dangerous.
dangerous.
Well, there's
Yes.
all the brigands, there's all the right.
Yeah.
So like in between,
And
so there's that. But like I have to tell this story. My dad used to go to Canada for Canadian Thanksgiving and hunting uh every year, and and they were driving in Montana, and there was a blizzard, and they basically slid into a snowbank, right? And they couldn't go anywhere, and they're in the middle of nowhere in hey Mark, thanks for rating.
oh, hi,
They
Mark.
were in a snowbank anyway. So basically, a farmer, had drove up on the road looking for people who were getting stranded, and he invited them to his house, and they ended up staying there at least one night. Like complete strangers, right? Because they're in the
Right.
middle of
Yeah.
nowhere and getting stuck in a blizzard, and they're 80 years old. This is not
Wow.
a good idea. I know.
Wow.
Anyway, so the traveling, and in the Greco-Roman world as well, like, up and it's you
It's
may not
dangerous.
come home. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
you might
dangerous
not.
to
You
travel.
might not. So there is this recognition of this fact, right? And part of your responsibility as a good human being within this culture
Hmm.
is to look after travelers, to look after people who are passing through your your country,
Yeah. And it's a big
because
deal. This ethic of
it's a
hospitality.
huge
It's a
deal.
big deal.
And this is what this whole story of Sodom and Gomorrah is about, right? And it's set up by this very what you should do represented, what Abraham does in Genesis chapter 18. He's visited by three men. He's sitting, it says, we're told he's sitting underneath an oak tree, and sees the men at a distance, and he stands up and he runs to greet them, and he bows down low before them, and then he insists that they come back to his house, and he makes like a whole meal for them, right?
Yeah.
This is how you're supposed to treat strangers.
Yeah.
And then this is contrasted with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where the same men go then to the city of Sodom, and they're in danger in the city.
Yeah.
Lot, in terrible fear, has to bring them home because he's afraid of what's going to happen to them in the
Mhm.
in the city
Mhm.
square, right? And then
Right.
and the city's ultimately destroyed because they're terrible people who don't look after
Right.
strangers. But like this is one of the reasons for what you said, like one of the reasons why this is so important, especially out in the out in the country, uh is that traveling is so dangerous.
Mhm.
So it's incumbent upon these people living out there to look after travelers, people
Right.
passing through, right?
Right.
So that's part of it, and that's sort of where this story in the book of Judges is turned on its head, right? Because that's the function of that story. It appears at the end of the book of Judges, and the function of that story is basically to, like, there's a build up through the text on how society is breaking down. This village society is breaking down, and becoming more and more
I miss
corrupted.
I missed something. What story at the end of Judges?
The one of the Levite, sorry, the
Oh,
Levite
oh,
from Ephraim and his concubine, which looks
okay,
like it's basically the same story from
okay,
Sodom and Gomorrah, but
okay.
instead of it being set in a city, now it's set in a village.
In a village.
And
Okay.
that's part of the point of the story, is that things are so bad now. We've neglected our responsibilities to such a
Mm.
degree that you're not even safe in the villages anymore,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but that's still playing into this strong anti-urban polemic,
Mm-hmm.
because what's happening now is everything that's wrong with the cities is now infecting even even the villages in the countryside, and we've got to the messages that this is that we need to fix that.
Yeah.
Is it
Yep.
accurate to characterize these stories as anti-Semitic polemics? Yes,
Yes.
I think so. So I've got one more here, if you want to
Okay.
put my screen back up, so that we were talking about the 4-room house and the importance of hospitality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it, right? Like, the houses have to be one of the reasons they have to be big is to accommodate these large families, but also to ensure that you've got room to accommodate guests, people who are
Yes.
passing through.
Yeah.
'Cause unexpectedly, you never know when somebody might show up. So the third thing that's really interesting, going back now, these are characteristics of these highland village settlements from the 12th, 11th, 10th century, right?
Yep.
The third thing that we see is a surprising shortage of pig bones,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the way this is traditionally understood, and I'm sure people are picking up on this in the chat right away, when you hear me say that, and the reason these are identified as Israelite settlements is because Israelites, that's part of their ritual prescription, is the abstinence from eating pork.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obviously, the way this has been interpreted for a long time is that these are Israelites because they're ritually abstaining from pork. Um, there's like literature on this. I don't have it offhand, but if you have the book where I talk about this, I cite a few articles written by archaeologists and anthropologists about this feature
Yeah. This
where.
is page 54 and 55.
Oh, thank you. I
Because
can
see,
actually, yeah.
I write notes. Pig bones.
Nice.
Reduction
Okay.
of pig bones.
Yeah. Where's my footnote here? Well, I could just go to the notes section. Page 54. So, because I'll get a couple of these articles.
This is where I got the title
right
of this
here.
video. Because right in the middle it says
Yeah,
the early Israelites were country folk, not city folk.
Nice. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, I hear
So
it. This is. Yeah.
there's absence of pig bones around my house as well.
Very good. Mine too. Lots
Yeah.
of squirrel, mouse, and bird bones, though. So, because we have a cat, but so I in the footnotes here, I offer some examples. There's an article that was published in the Journal of Anthropological Archaeology in 2017 called Pigs and Pastoral Bias, the Other Animal Economy in Northern Mesopotamia from 3000 to 2000 BCE, as well as Alexander Faust, Pigs in Space and Time, which is a phenomenal
Pigs
name
in
for an article.
space. I'm sorry.
pork consumption and identity negotiations in late Bronze and Iron Ages of ancient Israel. And that's in Near Eastern archaeology from December 2018. So in that second article in particular, the case that's being put forward is that this abstinence from eating pork in these highland village settlements is not a ritual prescription. This is part of what is now developed in this more rural economy.
Mhm.
I used to work
But
for the last actual job that I had, Marin. I was a site supervisor at a provincial historic site here here close to where I live. There was a heritage farm there, and
Mhm.
so we had lots of farm animals,
Mhm.
including pigs.
Mhm.
And one of the remarkable things about pigs, like we had, a huge pasture for our cows
Mhm.
and our sheep and our goats. We had like no, I absolutely am not a pig whisperer. We had like a 20 by 20 pen for our pigs.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is because you don't one of the wonderful things about pigs and pork is that you don't need a lot of space to keep them. They are prevalent in a lot of ancient urban economies precisely because they're easy to keep and to raise in cities. You don't need huge amounts of pasture for them. Just imagine how pleasant it was living in, the Philistine Pentopolis where they had a lot of pigs.
Yeah.
Kept a lot of pigs. I imagine it smelled wonderful along
Right.
with everything else in the
In
city.
the city.
Uh,
Yeah.
right? Just what, God, how awful. But
I
anyways,
would not have wanted to live there.
no,
I can
no.
say.
So,
Yeah.
uh, there, so pigs are a common food staple in these urban environments. You don't when you move out into, the country and you start looking after, you start raising sheep and goats and cows if you can afford it.
Mhm.
Um, this it's not that you can't keep pigs, but one of the things that what's his name? I always forget his name. One of the things that Faust muses about in his one of the things that he argues for in his article is that this is actually like part of uh an expression of resistance. We're not city
Uh,
folk
yeah.
because we don't eat pigs like those disgusting city people do.
Yeah.
And over
It makes sense to
time,
me. Yeah.
yeah, it does. Over time, this is something that gets ritualized. This is how anything gets ritualized.
Mhm.
Rituals develop out of much more pragmatic ideas that morph
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah.
I should say some. I should,
Basically to codify it, to codify the practice. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I should say something else about this because we sort of have in view um the the kind of resistance I think people are probably picturing, and I don't do enough or anything at all actually in the book to make this clear, but like we probably have in our minds uh like this anti-urban resistance as sort of like these socially marginalized people rebelling and rising up against their city overlords and leaving the cities and going out on their own like uh, as like as like a marginalized people group sort of taking control of their own destiny. Um, while I think that's certainly meant to be part of the presentation, I don't think this aligns with the reality of the situation, which is more that people who actually were able to live in the highland settlements, in these who set up these village cultures, were probably relatively wealthy compared to people who had to live in the cities. Uh, s- so
Based
there's
on their
like
livestock and
yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of
just the
thing.
fact that they're embracing like what looks like a simple utilitarian lifestyle, which is interesting because they're not like the trappings of urbanization that we often associate with cities in antiquity are, you know, those things that we see of just like the top, just the top people, you know, the
Hmm.
city ruler and the bureaucrats enjoy a very comfortable life in these urban environments, but everybody else living in the cities has it kind of miserable
Yeah.
in terms of your actual living conditions. um you know,
Yeah.
you it's a different kind of life, but I think and I think that's also faithful um to who it is that's actually collecting and putting together this literature as well. Alums from Acadian. That's
Yeah,
right.
I
Good
was
to
gonna
see you,
say I
Brandon.
remember. I always think of alumni and alumni. Um, yeah,
So,
so the idea though of like the uprising part, it just seems to me that it makes a little more sense. Like the whole point of Israel is to distinguish themselves from like our tribe is better than your tribe, right?
yeah,
And so it just it's to me it's more of that rhetoric and that idea of distinguishing themselves, especially as diaspora people, right?
yeah,
They don't have necessarily their own land the whole the whole
yeah,
time, right?
yeah,
That they have to distinguish themselves in social ways, and this is
right.
one of those things. It seems like that they is
So
coming
maybe
across.
at this point, so that's one place, one social circumstance. This is the one that I really focus on heavily in the book. One social circumstance where I see these texts functionally representing what's kind of happening on the ground at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age. But it's not the only place. I think there's other ways to read these texts that make sense at other periods of, you know, Israel's history. So another place where I think these this sort of a narrative, this country folk, city folk narrative
Hmm.
makes good social cultural sense is in as part of the narrative that the kingdom of Judah has developed for itself
Ah,
in contradistinction to the much more powerful, wealthier uh, cousins to the north in the
so
kingdom of
can we go back
Israel.
to your map then and show people
Yeah,
what you're talking
let's
about?
do
That
that. That's
Judah
a good
is
idea.
this.
Yeah. My map's really messy now. So maybe I need a new one. Let's do a well, yeah, let's do a new one. So here, we'll just do this again. And here I'll put the notch in. So that's Mount Carmel. And then
Ah, okay.
so actually, I'm gonna do this differently. Yeah. So there's Mount Carmel. There. Okay. So here's the Kinnereth, Sea of Galilee, and the Jordan River, and the Dead Sea down here. All right. So City of Jerusalem is here. I forgot the E, but you'll forgive me for that. The city of Samaria is here. So these are kind of the two main cities
Mm-hmm.
in the biblical narrative. The city of Samaria is the seat of the house of Omri, who was, we think, probably the founding dynasty of the kingdom of Israel, the northern kingdom, and controlled, this region that included like the Transjordan. So that's this area on the other side of the Jordan, all the way up to like Tyre. Tyre is up here.
Yep.
So, and then it also controlled the coastal plain, right? Down, we're not sure how far this way, but it controlled this huge area.
Yeah.
Jerusalem, for most of its existence, was just this tiny little
Mm.
kingdom, right?
Yeah.
So within this setting, I think these narratives, and that's the other thing too, the hill country, well, remember, these are all, the hill country kind of extends from Mount Carmel here south, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Samaria and Jerusalem are both in the hill country, but as you get farther south, uh, the the conditions are far worse. Like
Yeah, it's more rugged.
it's a much more rugged terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that within this sort of culture, within this sort of setting, these sorts of narratives of city folk and country folk probably make sense from a very strongly Judean perspective. And the focus on the polemic then is the wealthy, more decadent, more powerful cousins to the north in Samaria. So I think, so this is like probably, like 8th century here, I think is another potential setting where these sorts of narratives make sense as developing. And then there's one more. So in 722 BCE, the Assyrians come and they destroy Samaria and bring an end to the northern kingdom. This results in an increase of power and influence for the city of Jerusalem. Judah effectively comes to, for a short period of time, for about 100 years, they're like a vassal of Assyria, but manage to realize some uh limited independence and security. They're basically, all they're doing is they're basically filling this power vacuum that's been
Mm-hmm.
left by the now lost kingdom of Israel, right?
Yeah.
So that's the 7th century basically. And then at the end of the 7th century and the beginning of the 6th century, the Babylonians come and control the region, and eventually, siege and destroy the city of Jerusalem, exile, not all of the people of the city, a bunch of the people, the wealthy, influential, powerful, strong people,
Right.
get taken off to Babylon. And then I think there's the biblical story of this is that after 70 years, the people who are in Babylon come back to Jerusalem. They rebuild the city and they rebuild the temple.
Mm-hmm.
Um, The archaeology on this and the history on this is kind of disputed in terms of like what exactly was going on. There's a lot of propaganda in the
Mm.
biblical text, as you can imagine, surrounding the idea of the exile.
Mhm.
So, but go ahead.
But is it more likely than the Exodus? Right? I mean that there were.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean
No,
it did happen.
yes, it
Okay.
it certainly happened. Yeah, it's
Okay.
just where like the numbers are not
Mhm.
as like it's not as like that's one of the things that I talk about on occasion is how Jeremiah the prophet, um, which is where I did like my PhD work. Jeremiah,
He's something else, that
prom-
Jeremiah. I'm
he
telling you.
really is. Yeah. One of the things that he does though is he promotes this myth of like a completely empty land.
Yeah.
Uh, Everyone's gone, everyone's dead. Uh, that didn't happen, right? But this is something that gets propagated throughout a bunch of biblical writers when in
Mm.
actual fact, I mean, lots of people continue to live
Yeah.
in the ruins of the city and in the surrounding countryside and in other places. There are
Yeah.
always people there, and they were always native people, like, to the area. They were,
Yeah. Yeah.
quote unquote, they were Judeans who
Yeah.
got left behind.
I
um
have I'd have a question, uh,
yeah.
and that is the so after the exile, coming back and building up Jerusalem again. So is that a shift away then from the identity as the country folk? Like, because,
I
or is there still that tension because it's the king that isolates the people? Oh, so that's after
Yeah,
this.
I think
Okay, the
it's
king
I
isolates the
like, I
people and
think
they
it's
have their own religious experiences out of the city, right? And hardly anybody gets to come to the temple.
I
Which
think
king
it's
was that?
oh,
The
that was Josiah, so that was before the
Josiah.
exile,
Oh,
right?
before the exile. Okay.
Yeah, so but I think it's not as overt, right,
Mm.
in the
Mhm.
in the post-exilic period.
Okay.
Um, I think what's happening is you have these people who are coming back and resettling Jerusalem and
Mhm.
rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem, uh, getting into, like, local disputes with the people who are still living there. Like, one of
Mm.
the things that you see in a number of these texts, like in Ezra and Nehemiah, they just go ahead and call everybody who's living in the land Canaanites.
Yeah.
They identify them as the 7 nations that Joshua destroyed in the book of Joshua, right? Like, they're the
But then
the
they're
the
there. Okay.
Hittites and the Perizzites and the
Yeah.
Canaanites and the Hivites and all those, and the Jebusites, all those guys. That's like, they just call them that.
Mm.
So, in the book of Nehemiah, they're called, they 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 isolate the Samaritans as well
Mm.
as a group that that's part of this. They're the enemies, they're the outsiders.
Mhm.
So I think there's that this is potentially a place in which these narratives also likely functioned, but the anti-urban polemic is a lot more muted at this point. It has much more
Is
to do with like lifestyle that's associated with Highland culture.
Yeah.
So
Well, and also they have like establishing Jerusalem again, I guess it's the having that space, that place, helps with solidifying identity
Yeah.
as Israel, right? As the people,
Yeah, I think so.
sons of
I
Israel.
think
Yeah.
so.
Or
Yeah.
the correct
So,
sons of Israel, right?
because this is
Because they are
disputed,
arguing with
right?
others. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's who really is who are the true sons of Israel is like it's an ongoing question all the way through to the New Testament, right? Like this is
Right?
according to the Apostle Paul, right? Like the sons of Israel are now m- members of the body of Christ. It's like
Mm,
your identity as sons of Israel is now found in Christ. Like it's
mhm.
so this is something that it was an and I think too like getting a sense of um uh, w- what things looked like from like a cultural religious social perspective, in this in the couple hundred years leading up to Jesus and the New Testament and the Roman occupation.
Mhm.
There was pretty intense competition amongst groups within the area uh, f- as like the true heirs, I guess, of
Yeah.
the heritage of God, and that's where a lot of the sectarianism emerges. This is where the Pharisees come from. This is where the Samaritans come from, and the Essenes and the
Essenes, yeah.
Sadducees and all these groups. They all sort of when you try to trace the origins of all these groups back to a single point, it's kind of always the same point, which is right in and around the 3rd century BCE. It's really quite interesting to see that that there is this push and this focus on um, identity that's
Yeah.
taking place at this particular time, and I think these are the sorts of stories that people latch on to in their
Yeah.
identity formation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess the different factions, I guess, who are trying to say we're the true sons of Israel, like, what do you know? Like, what is an explanation for all the different, like, what is the explanation for all the different perspectives? Like that the Sumerians are so bad, and I mean,
Oh,
like, why is there why are there these different factions?
I mean, I think so. It's complicated by a few things, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's multifaceted, and it's not the same for everyone. I don't think. What I will say is, one of the reasons for this, one of the reasons that this intensifies, has to do with um the emergence of the Hasmoneans. At the in the early part of the 2nd century, the Seleucid ruler Antiochus IV Epiphanes, um, you know, introduced policies and programs in Judea uh in an effort to I mean, this is usually always about power and peace, like preserving
Mm-hmm.
the peace of the populace. So he's introducing policies to try and Hellenize the region in order
Mm.
to make it more cosmopolitan and to bring it more
Okay.
aligned
Yeah.
to like so and what one of the things that he does is he changes the name of the temple, like he establishes the second temple of Yahweh in Jerusalem as a center for Zeus, for worshiping Zeus,
Mm.
as well, probably just alongside Yahweh. He
Yeah.
does the same thing. There was a Samaritan temple
Uh-huh.
at Mount Gerizim, right?
Gettysburg. Okay.
Up in the north, did the same thing there, right? Um, and this was just part of the policy, according to Josephus, and according to some of the other sources we have in like the books of First Maccabees and the book of Daniel. It looks like he uh banned circumcision, and also he changed the calendar. He changed the Jewish calendar, and this was a huge problem
That's
for the
huge. It's
people.
like the covenant, right? I mean,
Yeah,
circumcision is like the
yeah.
covenant. It's
So,
big deal.
but
So
again, I think we have to be careful about how many, like, probably maybe not for everybody, but certainly for a lot of people, like, this was a really big deal.
yeah.
And this, it sparked a revolt, and over the course of time, they managed to push the Seleucids out of the area. Antiochus dies,
Hmm.
and then his successor becomes preoccupied by Rome, who's starting
Hmm.
to press their advantage all over the Mediterranean. So in that space, the temple is purified and rededicated, and the Hasmoneans really established for the first time in hundreds of years,
Yeah.
the like an independent Jewish kingdom, Phoenician influence or Greek.
Both, right?
I think probably uh
I think the negative
prob
influence is more the Greek, though, right? I mean, that fighting against.
yeah, like probably, and I'm not even sure. I'm not at this point. I don't know enough about this in the second century, how finely
Mm,
distinguished the Phoenicians are from the rest of the Hellenized world, and especially like the Seleucids. So the
yeah.
Syrians essentially is what we're talking about, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So but yeah, it's a good question. I think maybe you could call it um yeah, again, I just don't know
Well, I
how
mean,
finally we draw
there were
that.
the Jews that were like taking on more Hellenistic, right? They were
Mhm.
building
Yeah.
like
Well,
this
this is
educational
one of
system and that kind of thing. They
yeah.
were like taking on some of that, and then there were those that were like fighting
Yeah,
against,
yeah. Like
yeah, fighting against that.
there was a real push. There was a party within Jerusalem who was
Hmm.
very interested in seeing Jerusalem become a polis, like a
Hmm. Uh-huh.
like a Greek city, right? So they were that's why there were supporters, there were promoters of
Yeah.
like the construction of a gymnasium,
Hmm.
and in the introduction and the education in Greek language and philosophy. Like there were
Right.
people who were strongly supportive of this. Um, but yeah, not everyone. And people were upset by I guess the aggressiveness
Yeah.
of Antiochus's policies and the way that he was going about um you know solidifying this. So but this ultimately resulted in about this 100-year period from about 150 BCE, maybe 140 BCE, to like the arrival of the occupation of Pompeii from Rome, in which happened in four, or is it 60 BCE, I think,
66, 60,
something
something like
like
that.
that. So during this 90-year period thereabouts,
Hmm.
um the Hasmoneans controlled the region, and they expanded massively.
Mm.
Like they
Hmm.
they in 120, they went and destroyed the temple at Samaria. They destroyed the city of Shechem. They
Shaka,
the Shechem.
shaka.
they they controlled the area all the way from Tyre up in the north down to like the Gulf of Aqaba,
Hmm.
on the Red Sea. So
Hmm.
like they managed to gain control of a huge
Yeah.
amount of territory in this period of time, uh, suspiciously reflective of the Kingdom of Solomon. um in
Mm.
as it's described in First Kings.
Yeah.
So but I think this sort of this the the Hasmoneans, the other thing that they did was promoted, um like a this Zadokite uh priesthood, which became like which we know as the Sadduceans.
Oh,
uh
okay.
the Sadducean control of the temple, um Sadducean religion, uh and I think that this adoption of this worldview also then really prompted like these alternative views, like
Yeah.
it caused this reaction, right? I think
Hmm.
the dominance of the Hasmoneans, like part of the result of that was um a an a Jewish introspection, I guess, in terms
Yeah.
of
Who are
trying
we
to realize
really?
who are we really, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
we're, and that's why the Pharisees and the Essenes and the and the Samaritans too, even though they were around for quite a while,
Hmm.
like these identities start to become more important, I
Yeah.
guess is a better way
Yeah.
of putting it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's yeah, I think
Makes sense.
that's ultimately what happened. And
Yeah.
this is a very, very well, this is kind of my the 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 historical period where I spend most of my scholarly work.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it's a very interesting time because it's really, you know, the the emergence of what we now understand as Judaism. This is really where the shift from Yahwism, from the these older forms of Yahweh worship start to become uh more Jewish in identity in the ways in
Yeah.
which we would recognize them.
Yeah.
Um because that was part of the program for the Hasmoneans too. I'll just mention a couple things. Like one of the things that they did, the as a result of the Babylonian conquest in the 6th century, and then a couple centuries of Persian rule, and then the conquest of Alexander the Great, like the lingua franca in the region was Aramaic, which
Hmm.
was the language of the Babylonian Empire and the language of the Persian Empire, the Achaemenid
Mm.
Empire.
I didn't
And
know that.
then yeah. So and then Alexander the Great, you know, when he conquered the area, he introduced Greek to that, but
Hmm.
Aramaic was still very prominent.
Hmm.
Um but the big change in this regard was the introduction of the Aramaic script to the Hebrew language. So they started to speak Aramaic, but then when it came to writing out Hebrew text, they started using Aramaic letters as opposed to Hebrew letters when writing.
Mm.
And that's what we have now. That's what we recognize as Hebrew is actually Aramaic letters,
Oh,
which
okay.
have been transplanted. So like what's actually Hebrew, like the old Canaanite scripts, um, that's all that was used for Hebrew prior to the exile. But this is something that the Hasmoneans, when they developed, when they um, came into power and were pushing this national agenda, that was part of it. Was
Mm.
they reintroduced this Hebrew script
Hmm.
and started to on all their coinage because we have it's really cool. You know, they minted
Yeah.
a bunch of coins, the Hasmonean
Yeah.
rulers. All of them are written in all of the text on them is written in Hebrew with this funny bastardized Hebrew script that looks very you know, it's supposed to be the old Hebrew script, but it's it's got some obvious differences to it, right? But that was part of it. And the other part of it was the, you know, the promotion of the Torah as on like a on like a national level. And then,
Yeah.
you know, the Sabbath and yeah, the ritual calendar and these sorts of things. So it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
this very
Holidays and
interesting
festivals.
time, yeah,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
this all sort of begins. So
Yeah. Wow. So we just covered
we came a long way, didn't
the
we?
whole
We just
history of
yeah,
the
the
Hebrew.
whole history. That's it. Wow.
'Cause here we are in the common era now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, okay. Well, I think that there's only one thing missing from this
Oh,
conversation.
is it hot
Uh,
tikva?
not yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not
Okay, we're
not
not there
not
yet.
yet, but I have to
Okay.
have to remove you here, and this is the other thing that's a sleepy puppy, little buddy. Oh wait, I removed you. Sorry, I'll bring you back.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
just checking to make sure the dagger's not watching.
Oh yeah, because he'll attack your.
He doesn't not here. He only does that to my TV downstairs.
Your big
He has yet
TV.
to
Yeah.
yeah, he's yet to attack this one. He's
Yeah.
too small. He's not interested, but he's wow. Saul just sleeping away. So we're not
Yeah.
missing any important daily milestones at the moment for him. So he's
Oh no, he's crashed out. Yeah. I tried to make sure he got to go out and got all of his meds and everything before before he talked, because then he would bug me to death to do his next
I've
thing. So
for the last little while I've been walking. We've been doing our evening walks quite late at like 11:30 or 12. And now it's kind of annoying now because, you know, when no matter what's going on at that time of night, he's like, "Hey, let's go. It's midnight. Let's go for a walk." So, that's fun.
yeah, they definitely
So,
get on a schedule for sure.
yeah, they do.
Yeah. I've
They
been
sure
I
do.
this one has been waking me up at 4:30 in the morning. I don't know why. It's
Oh
like he
dear.
was okay with the time change, and now all of a sudden he's not. I don't know. It's very strange. So
Damn it.
I refuse to feed him when he does that and wakes me up at 4:30. I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, you don't
No.
get breakfast yet. We got to go
No,
back
you
to
don't.
bed."
Yep.
It is not fair. Oh gosh. Listen,
Yeah.
thank you so much for the for all of the knowledge. This has been
Thanks for letting
awesome.
me just talk
Yeah, well,
and
I
talk
mean,
and talk.
it's like so many things to learn, so many things to know. I think it's
It's like one of my favorite things to do is when people just let me talk. And, you
oh,
know,
well, you're welcome to
so
come
I
anytime and
appreciate
do
it.
that here. Because I'm almost finished a book though. I have just like 3 more chapters. So,
Well,
but
so you went you read, I know you read chapter 17.
yeah.
So but you jumped ahead. You're like, I just better read that one. It's because I said it was my favorite, isn't it?
Well,
Is that
and you
why?
said nobody's asked you about it yet, and I'm like, well,
Oh, yeah,
what's
right.
so thing about it? And then I'm like,
What's so great about it?
what? And then yeah, so it's awesome, and I just had to jump to the end. I couldn't wait, but I also,
So
I
you
mean, I've jumped around a little bit too, but then I've gone back and just like,
yeah.
you know, really read through, and I'm actually
So which
starting
ones
to.
haven't you read? You probably haven't read
I
the
haven't
sacrifice
finished.
chapter.
I haven't finished 14. That's where I am
Yeah.
now, at the middle of
Oh, okay.
14. And so 14, 15, 16 is what
I really like chapter 15 too.
well,
So
yeah, that looks good. Yeah, I'm halfway through the Kings and Prophets. So, yeah.
that's like
So
the
I'll be
longest
done. I'll
chapter.
be done very soon. I hadn't had a chance to get back to it after I got it in the fall. So, Yep.
I'm just
That's
happy
good.
you're reading it. I'm happy that people
Yeah.
are reading it. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice when people are actually reading the book or
Yeah.
listening to it. So,
Or
but
both. Like
or both. That's right.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. That's
No.
good. So
Cool.
well, I guess this is it. You'll have to come back again soon. And
Always
we'll
happy to
talk
come back.
about more. Oh, great. I appreciate it. That's good.
So,
So now we need, yeah, see, I mean, I don't know. I can't steal all of your clips, but hot tikva.
now
would be
you need a hot
great.
tikva.
I know.
So,
Yeah. I need hot tikva
I mean,
as well.
I could say hot tikva,
You
but
can.
it's not the same. Hot tikva, everyone.
Hot tikva. Take care.